Coming up today, Trinity University has a free 24/7 telehealth service for students.
And doctors say that it is the best time to get your vaccine boosters.
All this and more right now on Newswave. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Newswave. Today is Friday, October 28th. I'm Cynthia Morales.
And I'm Caleb Reed. Over the past few years, Trinity University has been looking into solutions to truly help with student mental health. But in September, an email written by Danny Wen, student body president and executive producer of Newswave, was sent to all Trinity students to share information about the new TigerCare telehealth services and how they offer students a new way to access healthcare from campus. Wen explained that, quote, telehealth is supposed to be a service that should not cost students but also provide a meaningful resource that helps break the stigma of addressing mental health, end quote. These benefits are made widely accessible to all students as they are available everywhere and anywhere at no cost for this semester. Though they originally do have a cost, students must simply enter the coupon code ALCTrinity22 and the initial charge will be waived. Since September, many Trinity students have taken advantage of this amazing resource despite how new it is, and the counseling department will continue to encourage other students to use these services when needed. If you need a private location for telehealth sessions, you can call 210-999-7411 or email counseling@trinity.edu to schedule a location.
This year at Trinity, there is a growing concern over car break-ins on campus. A total of 7 vehicle-related thefts have been documented since August. And since this number is likely to increase, Lieutenant Bernadette Gomez of Trinity University's Police Department is making sure students and faculty are prepared. According to Gomez, thefts are occurring in Lot X, Lot T, Lot S, and City Vista. Despite the rise in break-ins, there are easy steps that students and staff can take to prevent theft. Gomez recommends that everyone remove valuables from their vehicle or put them in the trunk and make sure that all windows are closed. Always try to park in well-lit areas and remove your keys from your vehicle and lock your doors. TUPD wants to remind everyone to be aware of their surroundings. And if you see anything suspicious, report it to alerts or call the TUPD line at 210-999-7070. Our executive producer and Trinity student body president, Danny Wen, spoke with Trinity's newly appointed president, Vanessa Beasley, on her vision for the future of Trinity. Check it out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special interview on Newswave, Trinity University's student news broadcast on campus station Tiger TV. My name is Danny Wen, class of 2024, and here with me today is the newly appointed 20th president of Trinity University, President Vanessa Beasley. President Beasley, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Danny.
Yes, so, first off, of course, congratulations on your appointment, and of course, welcome to Trinity. Could you please introduce yourself so that the audience could get to know a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. So you know my name, so I don't have to say that again. I am a scholar of political rhetoric and with a particular emphasis on the history of the U.S. presidency and how it's changed as our mass media system has changed in the United States and globally. So that's what I love to study. That's what my books and publications are about. I was very fortunate to have taught and researched at 4 other universities before coming to Trinity, so 2 publics and 2 privates. So I have a pretty good sense of how different types of universities work. And I'm also the partner and spouse of Trey Beasley. He's also here with me on campus. We've been married 32 years, and we have 2 children, Adam, who's 24 and lives in Houston, and Charlie, who's 19 and lives in Kentucky.
Sweet. And so what drew you to Trinity and the presidential position?
So it actually starts with a story about one of my children. My son Adam and I in 2014 I was already in San Antonio for a conference, and he had just finished his sophomore year in high school. We lived in Nashville, and he had always really been interested in Texas universities. And so we decided to start touring, and Trinity was our first stop. He flew out and met me in San Antonio, and we did the Trinity tour. And I've told several people this, but it's still such a happy memory for me. When we were taking the tour, not only was I charmed by the beauty of the campus and really struck by how distinctive it is. But we also saw, just walking around, some faculty and student interactions, and in particular, it's not the building that CSI is now, but in that area, that the building that was before CSI renovation happened, particularly in the science areas, which was what he thought he was going to study then. And I kept saying to him, usually the students that would be working with faculty in labs, as one example, but we could be talking about libraries, archives, writing studio, doesn't matter. Usually at a university, those are going to be PhD students that the faculty are giving most of their attention to. And I've always believed that, especially with bright undergraduates, we should be offering, we in the general sense of higher ed, we should be offering more students more opportunities for that kind of, oh my gosh, this is how a discovery is made, or this is what it takes to write a beautiful poem. So I said to Adam, that seems like Trinity's really good at that. And that's where you want to be, where a faculty member cares about you and your growth and also is inviting you into the spaces that they care about. So fast forward to all these years later, when I saw in the email in my inbox about this presidency, I opened it and read it, and I thought, wow, the things that Trinity wants to do now still have that faculty-student engagement at their core, but also taking the next step forward with regard to redefining the liberal arts. And I got really excited about it. So thought about it for a few weeks and thought, I'm going to put my name in.
Yeah. So now that you, how was your first reaction coming back to campus here? I mean, definitely, I'm sure you might or might not have visited campus after you had a tour with your son here. But what was your first reaction coming back to San Antonio and seeing the Trinity campus?
It's so beautiful. I mean, it's one of the jobs that I had in my previous position at Vanderbilt was working with architects and finance people on a variety of different campus construction projects and the design of them to make sure that our students are learning. And so when we talk about that in general in higher ed, we talk about what's the academic program and then what kind of space do we need for it. And so this time coming back to campus with that knowledge that I didn't have in 2014, I thought, wow, this campus is designed for learning. It's beautiful. I've read a lot about O'Neill Ford since I got the position, and the historic value is meaningful to me. The modernist style is very attractive to me. And the last thing I'll say about that, Danny, is I feel like a campus like Trinity's is designed intentionally and because of the time that it was constructed to be welcoming to many traditions. Sometimes when you're at a college campus, you can see, oh, this was just meant to welcome these kinds of people at this kind of time. And some of those spaces are beautiful and historic. And when I walk around our campus, I feel like, oh, this is an architecture that invites people in, both through the light, beautiful spaces we have, and also through the fact that it's a style that works with many different cultural traditions.
And across the nation, we've had a difficult period in our recent history. It's been kind of chaotic for everyone, and I'm sure you experienced, and we've all experienced it both, here at Trinity, but also at your previous institutions. From pandemics to political turmoil to social injustices. How do you think we should move forward into this new era, and how do you think we, as the Trinity community, can begin our new chapter?
Yeah, thank you, Dane. That's a very thoughtful question. So I study political rhetoric. And when people think about political rhetoric, they might have a tendency to think about, as is appropriate, what's coming out of somebody's mouth, the speeches, the messages. And to your point, we've certainly heard a lot of political rhetoric, and we always will in a democracy. That's one of the great freedoms that we have. The way I'm going to answer your question is, the last few years, I've really started challenging myself to think not only about what I say when I'm speaking into the world and to colleagues, but also how I listen. And that's how I would answer your question. It's a really important moment to think about how we're listening to each other. And listening's a skill. It's something that we can do easily, or we think we can do easily for the most part. But actually learning how to listen in what I call a non-reactive way. Because I study argument, I find it really fascinating to sit down and, or read something or hear something someone's saying and thinking, I never would have made that argument. How would somebody have made that argument? What's their evidence? And how do you decide what's good evidence and bad evidence? How do they connect evidence to that argument? Some of those analytical skills that are part of my training and many other scholars' training too. I think the volume has been turned up, if you will, for a while now. And for me, it feels like a great time to say, all right, everybody, the only way through whatever's coming next is to be together, right? And even with people that you don't agree with, that's actually really important to find common cause, even if that's just for the sake of building community. Community is precious, and so we can't get there unless we learn to listen to each other better. It's really important.
And you know that as a student, you know, I've noticed like our community is pretty unique, our Trinity community, in that even though we come from completely different backgrounds, we do have a sense of bondness in this familial atmosphere that I think that even though we kind of go through these obstacles and hurdles, we all kind of overcome them together, and we kind of leave our opinions aside, and we have a respect for each other to kind of move on forward.
That's really important, right? And how to do that. I want you to have opinions. I want you to have political views. I want everybody to have a sense of what matters to them. That's really important to be able to articulate it for yourself. It's also true that you and I can work together beautifully on a committee for the good of the university, in your role and my role, even if we don't agree on politics, right? And I think for many parts of society, we've lost sight of that. We don't have to agree on everything to work together to make the community stronger. That's an area where I'd like to see our community grow.
And you know, on a lighter note, as we move beyond, you know, talking about our past, how's your experience here at Trinity so far? Like, what are your first reactions, first thoughts?
Everybody has been very welcoming. I will say I took a few weeks when I first got here at the end of July to basically have some behind the scenes time, if you call it that, because there are things as a candidate for positions such as the presidency that you can't see, that you shouldn't see, right? Anything from financial information to legal information. And so once you have the title, you need to see those things and you need to understand how systems work. So I have a wonderful set of colleagues, all the vice presidents and our general counsel. And being able to be with them and think about, tell me what's in your portfolio. I really want to, again, very respectfully understand how things work here. And they did a great job with that. And then after that, we started to have some meetings, including with SGA, and start to, again, do what I'm talking about, listen to everyone. So within all of that context, everybody's been so warm. Everybody's been so enthusiastic and welcoming. And I'd say everybody's also shown a tremendous amount of energy in whatever the next level is. Like I said, I have a pretty clear vision, but I want to hear from other people too. Everybody's shown just an eagerness to like, okay, let's do this. So that's great.
Yeah. So let's take let's look into the future.
Okay.
Let's see, where do you want to see Trinity, let's say 20 years from now? Where are you looking forward to?
So this is not just my belief, I know this. Trinity is in a very unique position to shine as a national liberal arts university. I say national because I think I've had the experience with my friends, people saying, oh yeah, Trinity, this is not necessarily related to my presidency, but over 20, 25 years, people saying Trinity is great. It's a little gem, you know, or like it's a little, it's this hidden jewel. And I'm like, what's hidden about it? Right? You know, like it's right, it's here, and it's shining so brightly, to use the jewel metaphor. So I think in 20 years, I would predict with great confidence that a couple of things will have happened. One is more people around the nation and around the world will understand what Trinity University stands for, and most importantly, the education that it offers and the value of that education. I'm starting to work with some colleagues to think about, like, are we expressing that the right way? Are we talking about that the right way? So in 20 years from now, you know, I love to communicate. That's my field. So 20 years from now, I know we'll have that down, and more people will know about Trinity. And then I would say the second part of what I can predict accurately is now we're in a time of not just other kinds of innovation with regard to tech, but also educational innovation, right? So there's a lot of people who would say post-COVID, online education's not going away. And I'm really excited about the differentiation you're going to see across educational and institutional types, because there's no one size fits all in higher ed. Trinity is a wonderful place for a particular kind of student. Which is one of the reasons I was so happy my son and I toured here. But it doesn't have to be for everybody. So I'd say that we are increasingly selecting the kinds of students who are going to thrive here and take the Trinity education, and then perhaps stay in San Antonio, perhaps go wherever they're going to go next, and spread the value of that liberal arts education to the next phase in their life too.
I mean, coming from San Antonio, I mean, Trinity's always been in my backyard. And so the fact that I get to be here, you know, getting to do these many different opportunities that I have been able to, you know, acquire and, you know, thrive in here at Trinity, it's super an exciting experience, and I definitely really do want to see what it looks like 20 years from now. Maybe I'll still be here. Maybe
I
I'll
think
still be around.
here's the deal, Danny. In 20 years, you can call me and we'll figure this out together. But I bet you what you'll find by then is that the degree that you'll have then, that people already respect now, will be even more respected and valued then.
And I really do hope so too.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so, you know, the last question of today's interview, and this is, you can look towards one of our mini cameras here for our interview. What do you want to say to the Trinity community?
Okay, I'm going to look at this camera and say, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome that I've received from students, faculty, and staff. Thank you for being the special community that drew me here in the first place. And I've said this to several people already, so this might be repetitive to some of you, but I'm here because you're here. My job as president is to lead and to lead us into the next chapter in Trinity's history. It does feel like there's palpable energy, that we're at what we're talking about as an inflection point, and I think that's right. And it's also right that it just won't be one person who gets us there. It will be our joining together as one community to make the Trinity experience shine even brighter and to make the value of your education even more obvious in the future. So please join me in that effort, and I want to hear from you about what made Trinity special for you.
Wow. So that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you to President Vanessa Beasley for being here, and to the Trinity community and beyond. Stay safe and stay healthy. This is Danny Nguyen, Newswave 14 reporting.
Still coming up, President Biden speaks at the UN.
And Seaworld San Antonio announces a new ride.
All after the break.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Welcome back to Newswave. Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District is under fire after hiring former state trooper Crinsum Elizondo. Elizondo is one of the 7 former Department of Public Safety personnel currently under investigation for their response to the Uvalde school shooting back in May. News of her employment led to a protest from the victims' families and concerned parents. And Elizondo was quickly fired before UCISD received a letter. Quote, "We are deeply distressed by the information that was disclosed yesterday evening concerning one of our recently hired employees, Crinsum Elizondo. We sincerely apologize to the victims' families and the greater Uvalde community for the pain that this has caused." And according to the abcnews.go.com, concerns about officer hiring practice have been growing across the country. The practice of police officers switching jobs and jurisdictions despite concerns raised in prior pasts have become a concern nationally. Some have called for the creation of national standards and databases that would enable prospective employers to learn quickly whether or not a cop has anything potentially disqualifying them for their employment history.
In local news, on October 1st, the 16th annual Accessibility Fest took place in Hemisphere Park. The Accessibility Fest is put on by Disability SA, an organization that aims to develop an inclusive community where people with disabilities can thrive. According to Disability SA, 1 in 7 San Antonians have a disability. The Accessibility Fest ensures that all people with disabilities have the chance to show off their talents and skill sets. Lisa Santoya, Program Director of Disability SA, added that the event is a, quote, "wonderful opportunity to just be able to have that outlet to independence." On Tuesday, September 22nd, Seaworld San Antonio announced its newest ride, Catapult Falls, which is set to open in 2023. The new ride will be a flume coaster, a roller coaster where the cart you ride in is pushed by water. Catapult Falls will be the only flume coaster in North America to have a vertical lift and will also be the steepest flume coaster in the entire world with a 53-degree drop. Seaworld San Antonio is only 13 miles away from Trinity and could serve as a fun weekend outing for students returning in 2023.
Do you know that we have a state park only 90 miles away from San Antonio? Our station manager, Emma Parent, explains Enchanted Rock State Park. Take a look.
Chances are you've heard of Trinity's Outdoor Recreation Club, but what are their trips really like? Let's take a look.
Hello everybody, we're on Enchanted Rock today. It's a mountain in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's 1,823 feet high, which is the equivalent of 30 to 40 staircases, and we're at the top. It's been a journey, but we've made it. Today, we're looking at some beautiful scenery behind us, we're looking at some wonderful rock beneath us, and we're having a good time.
I went on a trip with the club to Enchanted Rock. We hiked up to the top, had lunch, and even had time to explore some of the scenery up there. Among that, we also found a cave that we were able to go into and explore, which was very fun. Personally, I really enjoyed the trip, but let's hear from one of the trip leaders.
My name is Vivian Spinks. I'm a trip leader for Trinity's Outdoor Recreation Club, and if you'd like to go on trips such as these, we have them every weekend, so please join us.
If you're interested in the club and want to learn more about upcoming or even past trips, be sure to follow them on Instagram. Or email them at their Trinity email, orec@trinity.edu, to sign up for the mailing letter.
Up ahead, 20 nations at high risk from global warming might halt debt payments.
And then we'll discuss the recent protests around the world regarding the controversy in Iran.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov. Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
Welcome back to Newswave as we take a look out at the Trinity campus thanks to our Skycam, and the weather's been actually pretty nice for these last few days. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. It actually rained today, but it's really pretty and it feels very nice, you know, for some good activities outside for the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. A wonderful October. In recent international news, President Joe Biden took the stage in front of the United Nations General Assembly to speak on issues faced by the international community. World leaders met for a week in late September to discuss topics like human rights violations, climate change, combating the spread of infectious diseases, and international relations. The headline of Biden's speech was a forceful condemnation of Russia's sustained invasion of Ukraine. His speech comes at a time where economic fatigue is settling in on the countries sanctioning Russia. According to AP World News, President Biden urged his fellow world leaders to remain a united front against Russia's, quote, brutal, needless war, end quote, and to continue supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself. Nonetheless, high gas prices and worries of an impending recession in Europe have made countries skeptical to continue sanctions against Russia. As the international community looks down the barrel of inflated energy costs and potential recessions, President Biden urged world leaders to remain strong in their stance against Russia.
2 years ago, supply chain shortages inflated the cost of factory goods as the global economy emerged from the pandemic. Russia's invasion of Ukraine also sent gas and food supply prices upward. In turn, the Federal Reserves tried to aggressively raise interest rates to flatten those price spikes. All these events have driven inflation upward in the United States. As a result, consumer price reports in September came in hotter than expected. This spike is in spite of the recent fall of the big drivers of inflation such as gas prices and used cars. While the price of goods have fallen, the price of services have risen. This means the quality of food, medical care, Airlines, hotels, and housing will widen price pressures across the economy. In September, the price of restaurants' meals jumped from 8.5% from a year earlier. And in house market, the Fed's rate hikes have led to higher mortgage rates, which contribute to the 20% plunge in home sales from a year ago. The good news is for consumers that high house pricing have diminished since July, and apartment rental costs have started to slow. But for now, the Feds have continued to raise borrowing rates, jacking up key short-term rates higher and keeping them there longer than expected, fueling the fear of a recession in the global economy.
Beginning on September 17th, protesters rallied across Iran protesters rallied across Iran and engaged in strikes throughout the country's Kurdish region. These uprisings followed the death of Amini, a 22-year-old Iranian Kurdistan, who died 3 days after being arrested by the Islamic People's Morality Police for, quote, unsuitable attire. The protests spread quickly throughout the country, with widespread calls for the removal of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Demonstrations have also taken place around the world in London, where 2,500 people, including many Iranians, staged a noise protest in Trafalgar Square. In Paris, a crowd of several dozen people held Iranian flags and pictures of protesters who were killed in Iran. In Madrid, an Italian woman cut her hair during a protest in front of dozens of people, which is echoed throughout Iran, where women have also been waving and burning their hijabs in protest. Amnesty International reported that the Iranian government's crackdown on protests has led to the death of 52 people. With hundreds more injured and many activists, students, and artists arrested, Iranian state television announced on September 13th that 19 people, including members of the security forces, had been killed in the Zaydan shootout after unidentified individuals opened fire on a police station, prompting Iranian forces to fire back. Fearing an ethnic uprising, Iran has launched aerial attacks on targets in their Kurdish region this week after accusing them of involvement in the constant intense riots and protests. Across the world, advocates for democracy and human rights watch as protests and conflict rage on throughout Iran, with one of the world's last prominent theocracies.
Still ahead, your update on sports from Caleb.
And your entertainment news from our friends over at Studio 21.
We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come. Tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Welcome back, and now we'll turn it over to Caleb for sports. Caleb?
Thank you, Cynthia. Here are your sports for the week. First off, the Tigers football team has continued an unbeaten streak dating back to last season after defeating their last 3 opponents. They extended their record to now 7-0 this season, with 2 wins at home in the last 3 weeks. They are now on the road for the next couple of weeks, but they will return to Trinity on November 12th. Both men's and women's soccer are regionally ranked in the NCAA, with both teams preparing for the season finales. The women lead the rankings out of the 2 teams, sitting at an impressive 1st in the region and 8th in the nation. Both teams end their regular seasons here at Trinity, with both the men and women playing tonight. The women also play on Sunday to close their season against Texas Lutheran. On Saturday, both of Trinity's cross-country teams will be in Georgetown, Texas for the SCAC Championship. After a long season that started back in August, the men and women will finally compete in the championships with a chance to advance to Spokane, Washington for the regional championship. Meanwhile, in professional sports, first off, the Dallas Cowboys took another win on the year as we approach midseason in the NFL, climbing to a 5-2 record after a 24-6 win against the Detroit Lions. The game marked the return of franchise quarterback Dak Prescott, who missed 6 weeks with a hand injury. In that time, backup Cooper Rush led Dallas to a 4-2 record, with wins over both of last year's Super Bowl teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and Los Angeles Rams. The Cowboys were led by a stifling defense that includes breakout star Micah Parsons, who has 8 sacks so far this season and is looking at a potential Defensive Player of the Year campaign if he can keep up his performance. Further south in Houston, the Texans have struggled in yet another rebuilding season, sitting at the bottom of the AFC South at 1-5-1 record. The good news for Houston, however, is that the Astros have made the World Series yet again. They defeated the New York Yankees in a series sweep to take another AL championship, winning 4-0 against the Bronx Bombers. In the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies defeated the San Diego Padres in their championship series, winning the series 4-1 and advancing to their first World Series since 2009. The first game between the two teams starts tonight at 7:03 p.m. in Houston. Moving over to Formula One, Red Bull Racing has continued their domination over the grid, celebrating 2 championships in the last 3 weeks. In a wet and chaotic Japanese Grand Prix, Dutchman Max Verstappen won his 2nd consecutive Drivers' Championship despite a controversial finish. The race was delayed over 2 hours due to heavy rain that limited visibility, and everyone believed that the race would be awarded half points as the race did not complete the full distance. However, due to a clause of the rules that stated, quote, if the session is suspended and not resumed, end quote, Verstappen was awarded full points in his 2nd consecutive title. Last weekend in Austin, Verstappen took yet another win, bringing him just 1 win away from breaking the record for most wins in a single season. In addition, Sebastian Vettel, in his final race in the USA, led his 3,500th career lap. As the F1 circus returns to Mexico City this weekend, all eyes are going to be on Max Verstappen to see if he can continue that domination. Anyways, that's all from me.
And that's all the time we have for this week. Make sure to join us next time, Friday, November 4th.
From everyone here at Newswave, we hope that you have a safe weekend. I'm Caleb Reed.
And I'm Cynthia Morales. We'll see you next week.